From one stage to another, this time we turn the spotlight on the sport of sparring, or mixed martial arts. The U.S.-based Ultimate Fighting Championship has flourished in the past decade and can now be seen in more than 150 countries. Some of the best MMA fighters are from Brazil. Our correspondent Stephen Gibbs has this report.
Like a comeback kid, and we saw
it's fight night in Brazil.
UFC debut when Heath Herring rocked him with a head kick early.
This man, known as the Minotaur, is about to enter a caged ring and take part in one of the world's most aggressive and profitable sports.
Put down, and the next round took
mixed martial arts, or MMA, is huge in Brazil. In the 2 years that the US-based promoter UFC has been here, it has proved a phenomenal success.
There he is, Minotauro Nogueira. He's beaten Crow.
So what is it about this gladiatorial battle that is so popular?
I think Brazilian, they have a really tough life. You know what I mean? You gotta be tough to play this sport. You know, it's not easy.
To find out more about MMA in Brazil, we went to this gym on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. It's owned and run by Minotauro and his twin brother, Minotauro. Minotauro is one of the world's top MMA fighters. His fame is good for business here. Brazilians have long been known as enthusiasts for the gym. But now, like never before, they're getting fighting fit.
We have 8 gyms open in the world right now. By the end of this year, we're going to have 23 gyms open. Now we have more than 3,500 students in the whole gyms.
His gym runs programs for young, aspiring fighters. The philosophy is that martial arts on many levels are a good way out of trouble.
When you have a kid and you want to make them very disciplined, you know, you look for the martial arts. You know, sometimes those kids, the idols, is the drug dealer, the guy who carry a gun, you know, and sell drugs. We want to change a little bit there to make it that the idols are professional fighters.
There's a rather different, more serene atmosphere at the Gracie Academy in downtown Rio. In many ways, this is where martial arts in Brazil began. Jiu-jitsu, an art of self-defense, is one of the core components of MMA. It was brought from Asia to Brazil by Elio Gracie. He adapted and perfected its techniques, enabling him, a slight man, to defeat far bigger opponents. His 6 surviving sons have carried on the family tradition.
The philosophy of jiu-jitsu is that of a gentle art. Jiu-jitsu was conceived in India by Buddhist monks as a way for the weak to defend themselves against the strong. Basically, it is an art where you use the concept of a lever against a stronger opponent without using weapons.
But so effective is MMA as a form of combat that it's been adopted by the Rio police. Juan puts himself through this at least 5 times a week. He's also a member of the city's notorious riot police. He helps pass on MMA fight techniques to new recruits.
I have the task of passing on to our policemen MMA and self-defense techniques.
Passar agora para os senhores uma técnica que a gente utiliza no MMA.
MMA fight techniques are getting better known on the streets of Rio. These policemen need to be prepared for anything.
Tendo em vista que hoje o MMA é o esporte que mais cresce no mundo.
MMA is the sport which is growing faster than any other in the world. Any person can have access to MMA, even in video games. There are video games nowadays which teach our children how to fight. So the worry of our colonel is exactly this: to prepare our policemen so that when they are in urban combat, if there's any kind of criminal who might have knowledge of MMA or who might have a high-caliber weapon, the riot police will always be ready to respond to this aggression.
There is, of course, another side to MMA, and that's the money. With so many people in this massive developing country fighting, watching and buying into MMA, it's already a $100 million a year business. Marcos Macedo, whose company holds the license to market MMA products in Latin America, says there's never been anything quite like this.
The growth rate has been fantastic. For a new brand like the UFC, to have 21 licensees putting out or producing about 140 different products, it's huge.
As a result, some fighters are actually giving up single disciplines such as kickboxing or jiu-jitsu and concentrating on MMA.
MMA is very popular here in Brazil, and also financially, MMA is proving to be better for athletes. The profits are higher, so many athletes are turning to MMA.
But is there something dangerous about glorifying this?
Tito's got to move. Tito's got to move.
I don't know in the history of the MMA any fighter that would have been killed in the sport. I don't know of any very serious injury that's been permanent to these guys. So basically it's a sport. It's a very strong and aggressive sport, but it's still a sport. And these guys that are in the octagon, especially in the UFC, these are professionals that train for like 8 hours a day. So they are prepared for what it comes to them.
Pedro is someone who believes that it is worth the risk. MMA, he thinks, can change his life. He's one of the most promising youngsters around today. He practices 3 hours a day and dreams of going professional.
I began fighting Muay Thai. I fought and saw other disciplines which I ended up liking, and I had the opportunity of mixing them all in MMA. I like to hit hard, but to get hit is bad. As well as being a good sport, it brings fame and money. My objective is to grow and to be a world champion, to be recognized worldwide.
Pedro is certainly putting the hours in pursuit of his ambition. And statistically, he does have one natural advantage, as this is proving to be a sport where Brazil has more than its fair share of champions.
Thanks to Stephen Gibbs for that report. Brazilian Anderson Silva is perhaps the most celebrated fighter in the history of the UFC. He held the record as the longest reigning champion and for holding the longest winning and title defense streak in the organization's history. That brings us to the end of our broadcast this week. We'd love to hear from you about this story and all our stories. Please write to us at an@cctv-america.com. Or you could send us a tweet. Our handle is @CCTV-AmericasNow. Please join us again next week for another edition of America's Now. See you then.